Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, May 6th. Just touching base here, continuing on with chapter 14, section 2. This is actually going to be relatively short because some of this you've done already. Positive, no homework today. All right, get the work in from yesterday that was due, and you'll have a vocabulary quiz tomorrow. I'll let you do a little catch up day on Friday. Um, again, no homework tonight. Just read the post that I put in the stream of the classroom that pretty much gives a typed up review of what we're talking about. And then you can listen to this audio to hear me actually talk about the notes. Not like class, but at least you can hear me try to explain it. This isn't going to be a long one. I'm going to get through it. We're talking chapter 14. We are still causes of the Civil War. And I'm going to dive into this very briefly, the Compromise of 1820. We know this already. We did this, I think, in chapter 11, around there. Okay, the Missouri Compromise, written by Henry Clay in 1820. And it was real simple. Missouri wanted to enter the United States as a slave state. So Henry Clay wrote a compromise that said, fine, Maine will become a free state. Anything north of Missouri will be free, and the slave states could chase runaway slaves into the free part of the country. So you know this. We did this already. Missouri Compromise, Henry Clay, the great compromiser. We've talked about him forever. All right, Missouri's a slave state. Maine's a free state. No slavery north of Missouri, and slave states can now send slave catchers into the north to find runaway slaves. Okay, it kept the balance in Congress equal. It kept the same number of slave states and free states equal. Everybody was happy, and this compromise works, and it lasts. Okay, here's a map. All right, slavery can be in the green states. This is your South. All right, up north, no slavery. Following the Missouri Compromise in 1820, there is to be no slavery north here. Slavery does not exist anymore. Okay, in these territories, it can expand here, but not here. Now, here's the problem in 1820: the United States doesn't own any of this. None of it. This is before the Mexican-American War. This is before we annexed Texas and took in California, and the Mexican Cession, and the Gadsden Purchase, and the manifest destiny of the completion of Oregon. So in 1820, this worked because it basically stopped slavery from expanding. However, by 1850, no, it's not going to work. And we're going to talk about that in a second. And again, just to give you a breakdown, this is that imaginary line. All right, there is to be no slavery north of this line. All right, this is all to be free. This can be slave. And that was the compromise. Problem is going to be in 1850. Okay, in 1850, Henry Clay is going to have to do this again. All right, he comes up with its real original name, Compromise of 1850. Yep, Compromise of 1850. Written in what year? 1850. Okay, written again by Henry Clay. All right, and this is the big deal. California wants to be a free state. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. California wants to become a free state, and I just mentioned that California becoming a free state is now going to change the balance in Congress between slave and free states. So, country's in a real problem here. All right, the South doesn't have any real territories to become a state. California wants to be free, and Henry Clay miraculously is able to come up with another compromise that the president will sign. So let's talk about it. California becomes a free state. The slave trade is outlawed in Washington, D.C. Here's what the North gets: popular sovereignty. Okay, we talked about this. The idea that the people living in the territories would decide whether they were free or slave is now law. Okay, basically, right here, Missouri Compromise doesn't exist. Okay, this will replace the Missouri Compromise, and it allows the expansion of slavery into the West. And number two is the fugitive slave law. It'll be on your test right here. All right, all runaway slaves who were caught must be returned to the South without a fair trial. Even non-slaves could be accused of being former slaves and returned to the South. Basically, it said if you were a runaway slave, you needed to get to Canada. If you were a freed man in the North, you needed to make sure you were able to prove that at all times. And if you couldn't prove it, there was a possibility you might be returned to the South or brought to the South for the first time and forced into slavery. Okay, the fugitive slave law is going to completely anger the North, but in order to get California as a free state, They had to give the South this. Okay? Um, Abolitionists are really, really now going to start expanding the concept and the talk of anti-slavery because within the next 10 years, we're at war. All right? So give Henry Clay a lot of credit. All right? In 1820, he's able to keep the country out of war for 30 years. In 1850, he's able to do it for another 10. All right? That's why he's known as the Great Compromiser. Here he is. You've seen this photo. Okay? Debating in Congress. All right, whether or not the compromise of 1850 would be successful, and thankfully he was able to negotiate a deal. Okay, what it basically said was, and here's a very good map: everything in blue is slavery. All right, this is going to be really important because when in 10 more years, in 1860, these are going to be the 11 states that break away from the United States. Slavery. California becomes a free state, but now this territory right here, okay, is now opened up to the idea of popular sovereignty. So people from the South would rush there, people from the North would rush there. There's going to be a lot of chaos that goes on in this territory because now slavery can expand. Right? Big issue there. Again, you can read this. This is just a review of everything I just talked about. Just another slide. All right. Henry Clay. All right. That's an actual picture. Henry Clay will write the compromise. President Fillmore will sign it. President Fillmore will sign it. You can hear my son crying in the background. All right, there he is. Say hi, Jonathan. Okay, he will make the compromise in 1850. President Fillmore will sign it, and the nation is able to get out of war. The problem is runaway slaves, the Underground Railroad. Now it's all illegal. All right, there are actually signs up. This is an actual one. Slave catching was a lucrative business. Again, the North is not happy about this. The abolitionists are not happy about this. But in order to compromise to get California as a free state and to have more free states than slave states, they had to make the agreement. Okay? And there's another slide on the Fugitive Slave Act. At the same time, in 1852, and you'll notice here where 1848, 1849, 1850, kind of breaking this into year by year now, leading up to 1860. There's a very famous book written by Harriet Beecher Stowe, known as Uncle Tom's Cabin. Okay, she had witnessed slavery firsthand. She wanted to write about the horrors of it. It becomes a bestseller in the North. All right, if you were on the fence whether you agreed or disagreed with slavery in the North, this made you disagree with it. In the South, they hated it. All right, they thought it was political propaganda. They thought that it was an abolitionist giving one side of the story. In fact, Southerners actually weren't even allowed to buy it. All right, it didn't paint an accurate picture of what slavery was like. So again, causes of the war. You have another issue here. You've got books being written now that neither side can agree on whether or not it's true or false. It's just another wedge between the North and the South. And this is Harriet Beecher Stowe, and here's her book. All right. Uh, when she meets, true story, she meets Abraham Lincoln later. Lincoln asks her if she's the little lady who started the Civil War. This book goes on to become a bestseller in the North and banned in the South. Okay, and this is what she witnessed. These were families being split up on slavery. That's what she wrote about. She wrote about it on a first-hand basis. Okay, and like I said, in the North, bestseller. In the South, it was outlawed. All right. So again, easy chapter, really. Easy chapter. Really focus on Harriet Beecher Stowe, book on slavery. All right. The Fugitive Slave Act. Henry Clay writing the Compromise of 1850. All right. Keeping the country out of war for another 10 years until eventually there is no other option. Make sure you're able to explain the parts of the Compromise of 1850. All right, and even the Missouri Compromise, because those are the two big compromises between North and South to keep the country out of war. All right, so make sure you're able to explain the Compromise of 1850. Make sure you're able to explain the Missouri Compromise, as I'm sure that'll be on your test and your quiz. Like I said, guys, no homework. Watch the video, watch the notes, read the notes. You'll have a vocab quiz on Thursday. I'll give everyone a day to catch up on Friday. And then next week, we'll just pick up into chapter 14 again. So as always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Stay safe, stay healthy. Any issues, text, email, I'll get back to you. Stay safe. I hope you're all well, and I will talk to you soon. Take care, guys.